Good evening. The document was 73 pages long, marked restricted, for official use only, not classified, not secret, just not for public distribution. It landed in Jeremy Clarkson's inbox on a Wednesday morning, sender unknown, subject line blank, just an attachment, a PDF with a date stamp from 3 weeks earlier. Clarkson opened it carefully. The title page read, UK-EU Regulatory Alignment Framework, Phase 1 Implementation Roadmap. He read it twice. Then he called his researcher. I need you to verify something for me, and I need you to do it fast. The document was real. His researcher confirmed it within 6 hours, cross-referenced the formatting against known government documents, checked the reference codes, contacted a source in Whitehall who confirmed, off the record, completely deniable, that yes, this document existed, and yes, it was exactly what it appeared to be. A plan. A detailed, carefully structured plan to reverse Brexit. Not officially, not publicly, not in any way that could be described as rejoining the European Union, just, quietly, systematically, piece by piece, realigning Britain with EU regulations, standards and structures until the difference between being in and being out became functionally meaningless. The document laid it out across 73 pages. Phase 1. Regulatory alignment on goods. Accept EU standards. Harmonise product regulations. Remove barriers to trade. Phase 2. Veterinary and food safety alignment. Accept EU inspections. Adopt EU standards on agriculture and livestock. Phase 3. Customs cooperation. Streamline border processes. Share data. Move toward a customs partnership framework. Phase 4. Labour mobility. Negotiate youth mobility scheme. Explore broader freedom of movement arrangements. Each phase had a timeline. Each phase had deliverables. Each phase moved Britain closer to the EU without ever using the word rejoin. And nowhere in the 73 pages was there any mention of parliamentary approval, or public consultation, or referendum. Clarkson sat with the document for 2 days. He read every page, every footnote, every technical annex. He made notes, he highlighted sections, he mapped the timeline. Then he started making calls. First call, a former Brexit negotiator, someone who had worked on the original withdrawal agreement, someone who understood the legal architecture of Britain's relationship with the EU. I'm going to read you something, Clarkson said, and I want you to tell me if I'm understanding it correctly. He read sections from the document. The former negotiator listened in silence. When Clarkson finished, there was a long pause. Where did you get this? I can't tell you that, but it's real. I've had it verified. Another pause. If this is implemented as written, Britain would be functionally inside the EU regulatory framework within 4 years. We'd have no vote, no representation, but we'd be bound by their rules. That's what I thought. Who approved this? That's what I'm trying to find out. Second call. A journalist who covered Brexit for a major newspaper. Someone who had sources in Brussels. Someone who might know if the EU was aware of this plan. Have you heard anything about regulatory alignment negotiations? The journalist was quiet for a moment. There have been rumours, low-level talks, nothing confirmed. Why? I have a document, 73 pages, UK-EU Regulatory Alignment Framework, Implementation Roadmap, 4 phases, covers everything from goods standards to labour mobility. Jesus, who's seen this? I don't know, but it's dated 3 weeks ago and it's marked restricted. Can you send it to me? Not yet. I need to publish first. But I wanted to know, is Brussels expecting this? The journalist thought about it. If this document is real, Brussels would absolutely be expecting it. You can't negotiate regulatory alignment unilaterally. There have to be counterparties, which means the EU knows. And they haven't said anything publicly. No. Because Starmer hasn't said anything publicly. If this leaks before he's ready, it kills the negotiations. Clarkson understood. This wasn't just a document. This was leverage. Third call. To his producer. We're filming tomorrow. Full setup. I need graphics. I need the document on screen. And I need it to be absolutely bulletproof legally before we publish. How big is this? Bigger than the farms. Bigger than the BBC. This is Brexit. And Starmer's trying to reverse it without telling anyone. A pause. When do we go live? Saturday morning. I want it published before the Sunday papers can spin it. The video was filmed on Friday. Clarkson at his kitchen table, the document in front of him, camera tight on his face. He didn't shout, didn't perform outrage, just spoke calmly, methodically. I'm holding a government document. It's called the UK-EU Regulatory Alignment Framework. It's 73 pages long, and it's a plan to reverse Brexit. He turned to page 1. Not officially? The word rejoin doesn't appear anywhere, but it doesn't need to, because what this document describes is a 4-phase process to bring Britain back into alignment with the European Union on regulations, standards, customs, and labour mobility. He looked at the camera. Phase 1. Accept EU standards on goods. Phase 2. Accept EU food and agriculture rules. Phase 3. Cooperate on customs and borders. Phase 4. Negotiate labour mobility and freedom of movement. He set the document down. If this is implemented, Britain will be functionally inside the EU regulatory framework. We'll follow their rules, accept their inspections, harmonise our laws with theirs. The only difference between this and EU membership is that we won't have a vote. He paused. 17 million people voted to leave the European Union. They were told that Brexit meant taking back control. Control of borders, control of laws, control of regulations. And now, 8 years later, a Labour government is quietly negotiating to give it all back. He leaned forward. I want to be clear. This document doesn't say we're rejoining the EU. It's smarter than that. It uses words like alignment and cooperation and partnership. But the result is the same. Britain becomes a rule-taker instead of a rule-maker. We accept what Brussels decides without having any say in the decision. He picked up the document again. And the most important thing? This plan was never put to Parliament, never put to the public, never put to a vote. It was negotiated quietly, drafted carefully, and kept secret. He looked directly at the camera. Until now. The video ended. Clarkson uploaded it at 6 a.m. on Saturday. By 8 a.m. it had 4 million views. By 10 a.m. every newspaper in Britain was running it. By noon, Downing Street was in crisis mode. The government's response came at 2 p.m. A statement from the Foreign Office. Carefully worded, clearly panic-drafted. The government is committed to improving Britain's trading relationship with the European Union in a way that respects the result of the referendum and Britain's sovereignty. Discussions are ongoing, but no decisions have been made. Claims that the government is reversing Brexit are false and irresponsible. It didn't deny the document existed. It didn't deny the negotiations were happening. It just said, nothing's been decided. Which, to everyone reading it, meant, everything Clarkson said is true, we just haven't signed it yet. The political reaction was immediate. Conservative Party called for emergency debate, demanded full disclosure of all EU negotiations, accused Starmer of betraying the Brexit vote. Reform UK. Nigel Farage held a press conference. I told you this would happen. I told you that Labour would sell out Brexit the moment they got into power. And now we have the proof. 73 pages of proof. Starmer is negotiating to put us back under EU control, and he's doing it in secret. Farage held up a printed copy of the document. This isn't alignment. This isn't partnership. This is surrender, and the British people deserve a vote on it. Liberal Democrats, surprisingly quiet, because they supported closer EU ties. But they couldn't publicly celebrate a leaked document that proved the government was doing exactly what they wanted while lying about it. Labour backbenchers, panicking, because their constituencies had voted leave, and their voters were now seeing a document that suggested everything they'd been promised about Brexit being secure under Labour was a lie. By Sunday, 3 things had happened. 1. The petition. We demand a referendum on any agreement that aligns Britain with EU regulations. It reached 500,000 signatures in 18 hours. 2. The rebellion. 12 Labour MPs publicly demanded that Starmer halt negotiations and bring any proposals to Parliament before proceeding. 3. The EU responded. A spokesperson in Brussels gave a brief statement. The European Union is always open to constructive dialogue with the United Kingdom. We do not comment on leaked documents or ongoing negotiations. Which everyone understood meant, yes, we're negotiating, yes, Starmer's serious, and yes, we expect this to move forward. The emergency debate happened on Monday. Starmer had no choice. The opposition had the votes to force it. His own backbenchers were demanding answers. The chamber was packed. The Foreign Secretary spoke first, defended the government's approach, said Britain needed a sensible trading relationship with its largest market, said the government was exploring options, said nothing had been agreed. The shadow Foreign Secretary stood. The Foreign Secretary says nothing has been agreed, but this document, he held it up, is marked Phase 1 Implementation Roadmap, not exploratory discussions, not preliminary talks. Implementation, which means there's a plan, which means it's moving forward, which means the government has already decided. He looked across the chamber at Starmer. The Prime Minister owes this House an explanation. Were these negotiations approved by Cabinet? Were they discussed with Parliament? Or did the Prime Minister decide, on his own authority, to reverse the most significant democratic decision this country has made in 50 years? The chamber erupted. The Speaker called for order. Starmer stood slowly. He had prepared for this, had rehearsed answers, had legal advice, had polling data showing that actually a majority of the country now supported closer EU ties. But none of that mattered now, because the document existed, and it said what it said. He began speaking. The government is committed to improving Britain's relationship with the European Union in a way that serves British interests and respects British sovereignty. Interruption from the benches. Shouts. He continued. We are exploring options for regulatory cooperation that would reduce trade barriers while maintaining our independence. More shouts. More. No decisions have been made, no agreements have been signed, and any significant changes to Britain's relationship with the EU will be brought to this House. A Conservative MP stood. When? Starmer looked at him. When what? When will you bring it to this House? Before you sign it, or after? The chamber went quiet. Starmer opened his mouth, and in that moment he made a decision. He could lie, say before, hope to manage it later, or he could tell the truth, and face the consequences now. He chose truth. Significant policy changes will be presented to Parliament for debate and approval before implementation. Before or after you negotiate them. Starmer was very still. Negotiations require flexibility. Parliamentary approval will be sought before final agreements are implemented, which meant after. The chamber understood, and Nigel Farage, watching from the gallery, smiled. The backlash lasted for weeks. Protests, petitions, resignations. 3 junior ministers stepped down, saying they couldn't support the policy. The polls moved. Starmer's approval rating dropped 8 points, and Clarkson sat at his farm reading messages from people across Britain. Thousands of them, all saying the same thing, thank you. Someone finally told the truth. The document was still out there, still being discussed, still being debated, but it would never be secret again. And Brexit, however it ended, whatever it became, would not be reversed without the British people knowing. Clarkson had made sure of that.